I miss Fred Waterford. The final season of The Handmaid's Tale has finally arrived, and while the season is being aired, there's a missing piece for me in the show. Presence, attention. It's missing Commander Waterford. I deeply miss Fred, and before you judge me, let me explain why. Fred Waterford, played masterfully by Joseph Fiennes, is one of the most captivating men in The Handmaid's Tale. A villain, of course, but not the simple, easy kind of villain. Not the kind that you can hate comfortably. We learned that Fred was one of the original architects of Gilead. He and Serena were activists, founding members of Sons of Jacob. But Fred didn't enter this world as a patronizing monster. He entered as a believer, a devoted husband, supportive of his wife's career, deeply convinced they were acting for the greater good. Radical purification of the planet to ensure fertility would return and to save the human race. Because the world of The Handmaid's Tale isn't just dystopia, it's an apocalypse.
The winter is so late this year.
What are you talking about? It's cold.
Yeah, but it hasn't even snowed yet. They say it may not at all this year.
Well, that's depressing.
From Sipika, Miss Fred. It is nice city. Maybe the size of Boston. There hasn't been a child born alive in Sipika in 6 years.
The end of mankind wasn't theoretical at this point, it was actually happening. And while the books are more detailed about this, the show, in my opinion, fails to deliver that message. From the flashback scenes, we understand that Fred's evil then is not born out of madness or hatred for people who don't share his belief. It's born out of conviction.
What did you do when our values eroded? When the birth rate was plummeting? Stood by and let it happen.
When we meet Fred through June's eyes, he doesn't greet June with cruelty or harshness. He greets her with shyness almost.
Open.
Right. Well, good. Nice to meet you.
He invites her to play Scrabble, a game that is both innocent and forbidden, because women don't read in Gilead, and Fred knows this because he helped create the laws. But here's the thing. Fred isn't a fundamentalist. He doesn't truly believe women are simply baby-making vessels.
Yes, well, I've got a lot on my plate, so to speak.
Fred loves to think that he is kind, that he's a good man, a good father.
Would you like some?
Oh, no, thank you.
Sure.
He values Serena's opinion,
You should be a part of these decisions.
and he even revels in June's flirtation, even if it's performative. Fred is strange. He's an anomaly. He's a man who got everything he ever asked for, and it's almost like it has become too much for him. A man trying to survive in a system that he helped build, a system that now gives him more power than any one man can hold without rotting from the inside.
Better. Better never means better for everyone. It always means worse for some.
It's one of the most honest lines in the series, and personally, my favorite. It reveals what makes him so dangerous. Fred understands the cost of progress. Every breakthrough, every revolution, every so-called purification, someone, somewhere pays the price for it. The scientist, the worker, the children, or the bodies of the people exploited to achieve the so-called goal. And Fred doesn't hide from that truth. He embraces it. And that makes him the most honest man in Gilead, in my opinion. But Fred is also ruthless and calculating. He doesn't enjoy debasing women the way the other commanders do. His cruelty is much more subtle and deliberate. In episode 12, postpartum, after June is forced out of the Waterford home because of tensions with Serena, the baby she gave birth to, Nicole, refuses to eat. She needs to be breastfed. So Fred arranges the most perverse reunion I have ever seen. He brings baby Nicole back after days of separation from his mother, just to let June hear her cries. June isn't allowed to hold her. She isn't allowed to comfort her. She is ordered to pump milk from another room, listening as her child wails from the other side of the wall. And this is the kind of sick psychological warfare that Fred excels at. The most coveted, most hypocritical privilege of Gilead is called Jezebels, a secret brothel where commanders indulge in the very sins that they punish. And we learn that Fred is not just a visitor, he's a patron. And going to Jezebels isn't just about desire, it's also about status. It's also about proving himself outside of the scripted theater of his work and his home life. It's also where Fred trades glances and drinks with diplomats and other commanders. And it's where power circulates in the shadows. Fred pays attention to every little detail.
Alfred, I'm not done. I know why you wanted to come back here.
He's like a hawk. He's constantly reading the room, scanning the faces for weakness, for need, and for desire. He doesn't want you to simply deliver your lines. He wants you to act like you mean it, or his pleasure is not going to be complete.
Kiss me.
And he plays this sick little game with everyone.
I like that. Like you mean it.
Fred craves gratitude like oxygen, doing favors just to hear the words, "thank you," from someone's lips.
Relax. I did something nice for you. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You deserve this.
But it's not kindness, it's about control. A performance where the script always ends with him being owed and him on top. And I think that's what June despises the most about him. The way the humiliation always has to go one step further. Fred understands women are capable. He knows they are his equal. But for the fantasy to work, he needs them to kneel in front of him anyway. But that's not the worst of it. One of the most chilling displays of Fred Waterford's power was on television. When June finally smuggled baby Nicole out of Gilead, Fred doesn't send soldiers, he sends diplomacy. He sends a prayer, broadcast live for the world to see. He stands at a podium, calls on the Canadian government, appeals to God. And there, he doesn't look like a tyrant. He doesn't look like a monster. He looks like a father, a grieving father, asking for his child to be returned. And it's brilliant. Because Fred knows exactly what plays well on the screen. He knows the script. He knows how to sound gentle and remorseful. It doesn't matter that he never really cared for Nicole as a daughter. It doesn't matter that he built a system that ripped mothers from their children. What matters in that moment is the optics. He loves how June pretends to want him, pretends to be grateful.
Is it mine?
Of course.
You do that so well.
Because it helps him pretend to be strong. Because Fred Waterford isn't a sadist. He's not even brutal. He's worse than that. He's seductive. And seduction is very, very hard to hate. The show makes it clear Fred is never the main focus. He is rarely filmed alone. And what I find especially intriguing is how the camera often lingers on his hands. The Handmaid's Tale is obsessed with Fred's hands. Unlike the other characters who are given full-frame scenes, Fred is often deconstructed into body parts. Eyes, beard, mouth, hands. Hands that hold power and restraint. It's a brilliant, quiet metaphor to illustrate Fred's control, his way of dominating without words. The camera work also tells us the story of the power dynamic between him and Serena, and between him and June. At the beginning of the show, Fred stands with Serena as equals. But as the story progresses, Fred shifts into dominance and the angles change. He moves to the right side of the frame, the position of power, and especially when he's with June. He's looking down on her, standing above her, physically and figuratively. When he needs to be reminded that he himself is in charge, his position changes. And when he isn't in control,
You did let me win.
he moves to the left. Throughout season 1, Fred is more present than man. He is not always seen, but he's always felt. He's the tension in the room, the weight behind a closed door, the slow, deliberate echo of boots on the stairs to June's room, and it's suffocating. That was the brilliance of Fred Waterford. He brought tension to each scene without needing to raise his voice. The kind of tension that breathes down your neck. Like on Lydia, he showed us the terror of words through his perfectly timed use of scripture.
Commander Waterford, if you don't mind, and you are Luke Banco. You should remember your scripture, Mr. Banco. His kingdom endures forever.
You cannot hate this man enough. Fred, in my opinion, has some of the best lines of the show.
The mouth of a woman is a deep bay.
Sometimes, all it took was for Fred to be in the room, and I knew something bad was brewing underneath the surface. I miss Fred because stories without men like Fred feel incomplete and dishonest. His story is one of a man who became something evil for his idea of the greater good. They say the road to hell is paved with good intention, and Fred's evil is deliberately more complex. Because evil, when it's charming, when it's patient, and when it smiles at you, doesn't feel dangerous at first. It gains your trust, it makes you put your guard down, and that's what makes it work. And Fred Waterford understood that better than anyone in the show.
My hand is made me.